Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon. Welcome to our Friday Lifestyle Biohacks. And today's a great one. We're going to talk about metabolism or metabolic health and what that means. So you've heard us talk about our metabolism before, but there are some real clarifying moments that you'll hear some information today that will help you understand, why we're so keyed in on metabolism and how it also relates to energy and energy production. Good morning, Dr. Chris.
Good morning, Dr. Tina, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And this is a great subject, so why don't we get started here? And as you all know, Tello유스 technology is the signaling. Signaling is the software of the body. And it all starts with energy and the production of the energy and the energy factories in our cells. As you see on the left-hand side, the mitochondria, these are these little energy factories. And they need to be functioning optimally in order to facilitate that signaling. And then what it is, it's the ability for Tello유스 to function at all the different levels throughout the body, the cells, the tissue, organs, and systems that facilitate all this signaling, because you have peptides that are signaling, enzymes that facilitate the metabolic functions, the hormones from the endocrine system, the cytokines from the immune system, the neurotransmitters, the exosomes. These are all part of this signaling software. And the orchestration for all these biochemical reactions is what we call metabolism. And that's what we're going to focus on today, metabolic function. Dr. Tina.
Sounds great. Well, what do most people reference when they hear the word metabolism? If you could think about it here on the left-hand side, we have, our intake. And these are the fats, the carbohydrates, the other things proteins that we take in. And all of that chemical energy, we have to convert it. Once it gets into the body, everything needs to be converted. And you see this ATP in the middle. That's adenosine triphosphate, just a long word for ATP. Now, ATP is an energy carrying molecule that's found in the cells of every living being, okay? All living things. And the ATP also then is used for fuel for other processes in the body. And we create our metabolism. And our bodies require this energy for everything. We have to have our metabolism. We need it for thinking. We need it for growing. Our metabolism is the sum of all of these biochemical processes that Dr. Chris was talking about, again, on the previous slide. So it's not what we think it is. Our metabolism is, we're burning fuel for energy. It's not just that. And we're going to talk about that. Dr. Chris.
Yeah, and I'd like to just share that you see the chemical waste, carbon dioxide and water, H2O, CO2, and that's when it burns efficiently. But when we get out of balance and we lose the ability to make the energy efficiently, then the body goes into a fermentation stage. And that means that you're making lactic acid. And that's what you feel when you wake up in the morning and you're all stiff and sore. And that's the lactic acid buildup. So you see, when you have efficient energy production, you're making that water and carbon dioxide. And when it's inefficient, you're making the stuff that makes you stiff and sore. So this is why we really want to focus on healthy metabolism. Back to you, Dr. Tina.
So our metabolism is technically, again, the sum of all our biochemical reactions in the body and is drastically more complicated than weight loss or weight gain. It is, however, all tied to the energy, because a healthy metabolism, when we have a healthy metabolism, we have a really strong ability to produce energy in the cells. And then we feel that. We feel those energy. That's when we have our energy. But the industry really takes a look at, okay, metabolism is weight loss, or it's our body composition. In other words, it's, how much fat do we have in the body versus how much muscle. And then it does look at energy levels, but it's so much more than that. And so when our metabolic function is poor, this is when we experience the physical signs through symptoms. So we will have an imbalance, we will have something happening, we'll feel those symptoms, and people think that the symptom is the issue, and that is not the case. Dr. Chris?
And let's express, something more from the standpoint of that. We always say we're energy beings, and that's where it all starts. And that being an energy being means that we're connected to nature, and it all starts with the sun. The sun creates this light energy, and the plants take the light energy into the chloroplasts, those green molecules that are in all the foods, and create photosynthesis. And that's when the sunlight and water makes the plant. And then we eat the plant where this energy is stored. And it's like a sugar molecule. That's what that's C6H12O6 plus oxygen. And so we take that plant, eat the plant, and release a chemical energy, the ATP. So we're putting back the energy that was received by the plant that was stored there. And this is called cell respiration. And it all begins with healthy function of the mitochondria. And so when it functions healthily in a proper way, that cell respiration means that we release the carbon dioxide out of our lungs, and we release the water that is part of the byproduct from that metabolic function. So this is really the ideal function of metabolism, and why we say that we're energy beings first. And if we learn that from the beginning in grade school and throughout our lives, we could appreciate nature so much more and stay connected to nature, because it's our disconnect with nature that's causing all the problems. We think that we can, sidestep or do better than nature, and then we're way off when we go that route. And this is what creates all the problems. Dr. Tina.
Very important to know that the sunlight, we need that as well. We have to get out into the sun. Also, make sure you're eating those good fruits and vegetables, because that is going to help us make more energy. And I just see such a lack of that in our culture today because of the processed foods or these fad diets like keto diet, and all of the vegetables and fruits are left out of the meal. And so we talk about a rainbow diet, and it's so important to have that.
And it's so important to understand that, I love this slide because it shows a real good graphic of all the different systems that are integrated. And allopathic medicine, or conventional medicine, as we refer to it, it separates, and it looks as the body is segmented into, different systems and organs, and the different doctors specialize in these different areas. But integrative medicine and the approach that we're trying to help you understand is that everything's interconnected. It's an integrated nature of metabolism. So metabolism works throughout all the systems. And if you look at all these different examples, you have the skeletal system, the cardiovascular system, the pulmonary system, the central nervous system, the lymphatic system, the digestive and eliminative system, the urinary system, where you see the kidney, bladder for elimination, the endocrine system, and the musculoskeletal system. So each one of these plays a unique role, but at the same time, they're all interconnected. And this is where metabolism functions with all of these different systems and helps integrate that. And when you lose that integration, this is when you see a breakdown in some of these organs and systems that we're showing you here in this graphic. Dr. Tina.
The body is so intelligent. And even if we have an issue with one of our organs or one of our systems, one of the other ones tries to compensate and take over. And we might then have a symptom from that system that's trying to overcompensate. And instead of dividing this out, what we want to do is really get at that cellular level and look at how do we work at the foundation, okay? So what are the core elements of metabolic health? Well, we have to look at these areas, our digestion, our detoxification pathways. And we talked about that last week on our webinar. We have to take a look at our blood glucose and our fat regulation, the blood glucose, our blood sugars, our adrenal response. Are we stuck in a fight or flight situation? The immune response, iron regulation. This is interesting. This is not usually focused on, but needs to be focused on because you might have a genetic variant that throws your iron regulation off. And as we age, that tends to be a big problem because of oxygen and iron and that oxygen intake. And so iron regulation is really important as we age. And we do forget to take a look at that. Hormone physiology and neurotransmitters. How do we feel? Now, in combination, these pathways significantly determines your metabolic health. Again, remember, it's the sum total of the energy produced by the body. It directly correlates with the regulation of all of these interdependent systems. So if metabolism is the process of creating energy to power all of the other internal processes, which keeps us healthy and operating, then we can assume that anything that adds a stress to our body, specifically the process of making energy itself, is going to compromise our metabolism. So we have to take a look at what are those things that can stress our body. Dr. Chris?
Dr. Tina, why don't you share a little bit what pushes these systems, what stresses push these systems out of balance?
As far as digestive health? Well, let's talk about this. So if your microbiome, let's just say the acid in your stomach, if you have unhealthy acid in your stomach, so many people are taking acid blockers, right? Or you have a parasite, or you have a leaky gut, detoxification pathways. What can happen here is you can have heavy metals, right? Or you don't exercise and your lymphatic is not moving, you have congestion. Then you have blood sugar and fat regulation. This is when you're eating too many sugars or you're not eating the right fats, you're not getting good cholesterol, choline in your diet. Adrenal response, you're doing too much of the caffeines and too many of the fight or flight situations and you get stuck. Your immune response, this is interesting with the immune response. You could end up being stuck in an immune response because you might have something going on with inflammation in the body. Your iron regulation, not getting enough of the red meat, not exercising, breathing will help with iron regulation. Hormones, as we age, our hormones just get thrown out of balance. And you could have the plastics, the BPCs that really throw off our hormones. And then the neurotransmitters. This is very, very much related to the gut. Neurotransmitters, that gut-brain axis, we can end up with depression or other issues because our digestive health is off. We don't have the right microbiome, or we have a leaky gut. And feel free to add, Dr. Chris. Did I lose you?
Oh, the next slide just reviews it all again, one more time.
So here we go. What pushes them out of balance? This is here on this slide. Again, the nutritional deficiencies. One thing that's not listed that I do really want to focus on, and let's just say that you might have a bacterial infection and it's a low-grade bacterial infection, or you have candida or a virus. Let's say you were bit by a tick and you have Lyme's disease. A lot of times, these things don't show up right away, or a parasite or fungal mold exposure, Epstein-Barr. Those can really hijack your energy. In other words, all of these different stressors here affect the system, and they're in the form of energy takers. So you have to be aware, and you can have tests that will test for different imbalances with viruses and bacterial and fungal issues. Then we have our nutritional deficiencies, okay? Toxic accumulation, nervous and endocrine signaling issues. We talk about this with Tello유스. We need signaling. And it's not just with the nervous and endocrine, but we help the body reestablish its signaling on all levels. And then we have the chronic external stressors, environmental. Think of electromagnetic frequencies, EMFs, geopathic stressors. It's interesting. You can have where you live actually be creating an imbalance. So you have an environmental imbalance. What if there's a company that's dumping toxins into the water? Okay. Chronic internal stressors, psycho-emotional. What about your relationships? Who do you share your time with? Here's a great thing to think about. When you're looking at who you share time with, if you share time with them and you feel an emotional drain, right? You're losing energy. Start saying they're a heck no in your life. If you get a heck yes, spend time with them or do what you need to with them. But really look at what is an energy taker in your life. Now, all of these can either be just isolated, but more than likely it's a combination of more than one of these that is causing the issue that is really draining your energy and affecting your metabolism. So when we have these issues, the end result is we get a diagnosis because we don't feel well. And then we start focusing on one area when really it's probably underlying issues that are interrelated and interconnected. So if you think about this from a big picture perspective, all diseases are metabolic problems at their core. Dr. Chris?
On the next slide, let's talk about what it looks like from the symptom, because here's where we start feeling the imbalances, the accumulation of body fat, hard time losing weight. Well, this is a process. This just doesn't happen overnight, because when we have excess fat, we store it on the subcutaneous level, meaning just underneath the skin. And this is a healthy place to store it because this is where we utilize it for energy. But when we don't utilize it and it accumulates beyond the subcutaneous level, then it goes into the visceral levels. And what that means is it goes around the organs instead of just being under the surface of the skin. Now it's around the organs and is just taking away the energy of the organ function. And then ultimately, when we really break down this metabolic function of burning the fat, it goes intra-organ, meaning it goes inside the organ. And this is where Dr. T and I will talk about fatty liver disease, or, the heart muscle and the vessels start accumulating the fat inside the organ and the structures. So this is where you start to see the symptoms that their clinical tests will find. And then this is when you start getting recommended different types of medications. You see the sugar dysregulation, hypoglycemia, the inability to have satisfaction from eating, You have chronic thirst. These are blood sugar issues, a blood sugar dysregulation. And this is the beginning of the onset of, the pre-diabetes. You experience poor endurance and tolerance to exercise. So it means that your lungs aren't taking in the oxygen and exchanging it. You have poor circulation, and ultimately it leads to fatigue, very low energy, chronic fatigue, not just fatigue that a little rest will recover you. It's chronic fatigue that just doesn't go away. And the clinical test that you get from your practitioner is that they look at your blood sugar and your insulin function, your insulin response, and start recommending medications. They look at your triglycerides, the buildup of the fats that are inappropriate inside the vessels, and the hardening of the cholesterol in the lining. So this is where the onset of cardiovascular disease. Again, more medications recommended. Elevated HbA1c. This is the diagnostic test for diabetes. And when this is abnormal, this is when they start recommending the diabetic medications. Endocrine imbalances. We talk about the hormones, from the thyroid dysfunction, the adrenals, the pancreas, stress. We really emphasize the opportunity you have with Telloyuth to mitigate stress, because then this lowers the cortisol levels that you see listed there. And when you reduce those cortisols, you allow the body to take back its ability to make energy rather than to stay in a defense mode. So these are all the dynamics that happen when you lose that healthy metabolic function, and how it evolves into a chronic breakdown and a disease that requires, some type of recommendation for medication. Dr. Tina.
And I hope you all can see that when you have an issue, it's truly a metabolic issue. And when you start getting medications, you're putting a Band-Aid over what's really going on underneath. So let's take a look at, the fundamental core of metabolism is we've got energy. When we're making our energy, we feel energetic, we're functioning at a higher level of metabolism. And then when we start moving over to the right, becoming more dysfunctional, inflammation plays a key role in interfering with our metabolism. And we talk a lot about inflammation. If we have this low burning fire, then all of a sudden the flame gets turned on more and more, it directly relates to having also very dysfunctional metabolism. And remember, all disease that develops in the body is a result of lifestyle variables. So on the left, we're making energy. On the right, we're losing energy. And we know we have energy takers going on in the body. So if we lack the energy to heal ourselves, we know we have compromised our metabolism. So what do we do about it? We've got to reduce the inflammatory burden. Okay, that will help enhance our metabolism. Take a look at your digestion and the process of adequate nutrient breakdown. Are you absorbing? Are you eating a rainbow diet? You want to get all of the colors of the rainbow in your daily intake of food. And if you're not breaking down your foods, and you'll notice that when you're eliminating, make sure you're slowing yourself down, you're chewing, right? You're eating the right foods. You can also have apple cider vinegar in water and take that before a meal, or there's great kombuchas to help with a heavy meal of protein to help break down those proteins, that heavy meal. You want to minimize the development of the imbalances in your microbiome. In other words, you might have bad bacteria in your gut, and you might also have a leaky gut, and that's where the junctions of the colon are pulled apart because there's inflammation going on in your gut. And the immune system is so tied to the microbiome. And that's so important because your immune system will function more efficiently when your microbiome is in balance. And then, of course, addressing nutrient deficiencies to support biochemical reactions. We just don't get enough in our foods. So maybe a good green powder in water might be a great way to supplement and give your body some of the additional nutrients that you're deficient in. So when Tel-Youth does work at that very cellular level, it has the right amount of, or the proper nutrient in order to rebuild your cells at a healthier level. Dr. Chris, you want to address 4 and 5?
Sure. And just to go back over the first 3, we're supporting this whole digestive and eliminative process with, good enzymes and good probiotics. And that's what Dr. Tina is emphasizing as far as how to do that. And, a lot of this information that we've gathered here is from a company that's right in Dr. Tina's backyard that just specializes in enzymes and probiotics. And this is really what helps you to support the areas that might have gone, weak or deficient over time. So when you start at that foundational level, you give the body a chance to have the energy and the wherewithal to start removing the waste, removing the toxic chemicals you see in number 4, because these toxic chemicals are what inhibit the metabolic function even more. They get in the way of the multiple processes as that we showed you. There's so many different systems and different dynamics that go on in the body that are part of this metabolic function, and the toxic chemicals get in the way of doing that. And then, of course, encourage the restoration by starting with, your Tel-Youth, your Telo-Omega. They work at that foundational level, as we started with the first slide, helping the mitochondria reestablish the energy production. And then all of a sudden, when you power the mitochondria and that function with good diet, exercise, and supplementation, get into a good circadian rhythm. We've referred to that in other webinars, getting up with that morning sun and getting outdoors and telling your body with those red light signals that are coming from that morning sun that this is the time to start making or releasing the energy that you've stored up and built throughout the night. And all of these things really play a key role, because all of a sudden you start experiencing that you're going to lose weight naturally without focusing on a weight loss program, because your metabolism is turned on again. You have more energy, you sleep better, you think better. It's life becomes fun again. Everything around you is instead of being a stressor, is something you want to participate in. So incorporate a lot of this information that we've shared with you today. Listen to this webinar again, and you'll learn all this fundamental principles that help with restoration and regeneration. And that's what I wanted to share. Dr. Tina, anything more?
Thank you. And everyone on this call, you can improve your energy and your metabolism with lifestyle changes. Taking your Tel-Youth and your Tel-Omega baseline. After that, on top of that, you can do detoxification. You can increase your exercise. You can do these things. And most of them don't even cost extra, or very little to be able to integrate, to be able to improve your energy and your metabolism.